garage doing a rental return, and I thought I'd record a quick tip video on using multiple wireless microphones at the same time. Now, if you're using just one wireless mic, you just do a frequency scan, set it, and go. But if you're using more than one, read your manual. There might be a specific way you need to set it up. So the tip I'm giving is specific to the Electro-Voice RE3 wireless systems and the Audio-Technica 3000 series. Because in their manual, they specifically say if you're operating multiple units, make sure they are in the same bank. Now, for years, I just assumed that different banks allowed you to operate more wireless units. But that's not how it works. If you read the manual, it specifically says put them all in the same bank. And the reason being is bank 1, channel 1, bank 2, channel 1, they're not the same frequency, but they're so close that they will interfere with each other. But when you set them all up in the same bank 1, channel 1, bank 1, channel 2, are far enough apart to where those two frequencies will not interfere with each other. And the reason I'm doing this as a quick tip video is for years, I never operated more than one or two wireless at the same time. Never really read the manual. Just scan sync, good to go, and never had any problems. But my buddy had gotten 8 of maybe he had 10. I think he has 12 now, but he had, I think, 8 at the time, Electro-Voice RE3 wireless systems. And he could not get all 8 to work at the same time. And I was contemplating buying the RE3s instead of the Audio-Technica 3000 series. So I decided to read the manual because I didn't want to run into the same issues. And when I read the manual, I read this little section that said, if you're using more than one wireless system, make sure they're in the same bank. So I shot him a text and asked if he was using multiple banks, and turns out he was. And so I went over to his place the next morning. We scanned them all on the same bank, and all 8 of them worked just fine together. No interference, no issues, no nothing. So I'm not the only one that doesn't read a manual. Let's just throw that out there. So always read your manual. Always figure out exactly how they're supposed to work. I will say I did read the manual on my Sennheisers, and I didn't see anything about making sure they're in the same bank, and the frequencies don't quite overlap. Like bank 1 frequency block will be here, and then there's just a slight overlap in bank 2. So I'm not 100% sure on the Sennheisers. I might read my manual again on that to see if it does say anything about using multiple microphones on the same system. I'm not sure about Shure either. And I really wonder about Shure because my buddy Clarence has a ton of Shure mics. I think the QLXD, the ones that go for about $1,200 a piece. He's got a bunch of them. And he likes to use multiple banks. Like if we did a conference for the North Dakota Bar Association, and there was a main room, 2 side rooms, and we put each room on a different bank. And now I'm thinking, those probably should have been all on the same bank, but I haven't read the Shure manual. I've got to read the manual on his because he likes to use multiple banks because he thinks it splits out the frequencies. My garage door was open, but my neighbors kept walking by, and I kept having to re-record this video. This is like the 7th time I've tried recording it. This is the pitfalls of not having a commercial space anymore and trying to do it here, and then of course my garage door light goes off, so now I've just got the light bulb. Anyways, high quality production around here. But anyway, so that's the tip. Read your manual. See if you're supposed to operate them all in the same frequency bank. Quick tip number 2 that I'm going to throw in here. Actually, there might be 3 tips in here. When you scan and sync one, don't leave the handheld on. I mean, leave it on, obviously. You want to leave it on so that the next one doesn't scan that same frequency. But don't leave it right next to here. I actually make a point to take that handheld and put it at least 10 feet away. And the manual actually says to do that as well. Especially if you're operating at like 30 milliwatts of power. I'll get into the power thing in a little bit. But what'll wind up happening is if you have it really close, it's not necessarily that you'll get like a frequency bleed over, but you almost get like a power bleed over. Like the transmitter's just too close to the receiver, and you might scan a bank and it'll say, well, you've got 10 frequencies available. Then you scan and sync one and leave it right here. Then all of a sudden it'll say, well, you've got 6 frequencies available. Well, how'd I lose 4 frequencies? Take that microphone, set it 10 feet away, and I will say 9 times out of 10, you'll go from having 10 frequencies available to 9 frequencies available with that one. So you got to watch out how close. Like the manual for the Audio-Technica 3000 series says 2 transmitters should be at least 1 meter apart, and then a transmitter should be at least, I think, 3 meters away from the receiver. And that can be more if you're using 10 milliwatts versus 30 milliwatts. And here's another thing, just because there's a reason I can set these to either 10 milliwatts or 30 milliwatts. If you're in close proximity to the receiver, you don't need 30 milliwatts. It's not going to make it better. You're going to get that power bleed. 30 milliwatts is for going the distance. So if you're doing a small corporate event and the people are 20, 30 feet away from the receiver talking, put it at 10 milliwatts. You don't need 30 milliwatts all the time. And this is especially prevalent with the Electro-Voice RE3 system because they do 10 and 50. Well, 50 milliwatts, that's, for a big venue where you need the transmitting power. In a small venue, a wedding reception, go with 10 milliwatts. You've got 30 or 50 available if you need it. But that's why when you get up into the higher end mic systems, a lot of times you'll have 10, 30, and 50 milliwatt options available. So, like I said, I used 4 wireless mics the other day. People were maybe 20 to 30 feet away from me talking. I had them on 10 milliwatts and had zero issues. So don't always just set your microphone system to the highest power thinking more power is better. It's not always better. Smaller venues, more power can actually be detrimental to your wireless system. So that's my 3 tips for today. Read your manual and see if it says to keep multiple microphones in the same bank. When you're scanning your microphones, don't leave them right next to the receiver. Put them about 10 feet away. Otherwise, they're too close and the power from your transmitter can interfere. And number 3, don't always put it on high power. Small venues, use 10 milliwatts. Don't use 30 or 50. Anyways, till next time, have a good day.